Hi, I am Mitch Oswald, and we are here on my family farm near Aurora, Nebraska. And today we are exploring grain bin storage and grain trade with our corn.
Once farmers harvest grain such as corn, the corn must go somewhere. Farmers either deliver corn to grain elevators, ethanol plants, or feedlots, or choose to store it directly on their farms in grain bins until further action is taken. Grain bins date back to early civilization. The Egyptians preserved grains in years of plenty to protect against the years of famine. They built mud brick wall enclosures to store their grains. Over the years, grain bins have changed and continue to change, like you see in these photos. Today, the concept remains the same. Farmers use trucks and tractors to do the work and store the grain in the bins. A few of the reasons why farmers utilize the grain bin is to keep the combine rolling through the fields and allow harvest season to continue. Another reason is to hold grain back until the market prices rise, or hold off on selling low-quality grain until it can be mixed with high-quality grain.
During harvest, we store the majority of our corn in our grain bins here at the farm. This helps us at harvest time avoid the long lines at the elevator and keeping our harvest going. When we bring corn in, we monitor moisture levels and we dry our corn to the desired moisture level of about 15%, and that is the correct level that we like to store our grain at, and that is good for the sale of our corn to the local elevators when we decide to start hauling here in the upcoming months. We have several options when selling our corn in the winter months. We have local elevators that will take our grain, and we also have local ethanol plants that we market our grain through during the growing season for delivery at either harvest time or during the winter months. As the grain is coming out of the field, one thing that we have to do to track the grain is sample the moisture of it. And ideally, when we sell our grain, we want our moisture content to be a little under 15, but not too far under 15. So we have to monitor where the moisture's at, and then we can either dry it or we stick it in the bin and we leave it until we deliver it to the ethanol plant or the elevator. So, fill up our little hopper. And this machine will, it'll tell us moisture content, it'll tell us the temperature, and it'll tell us the test weight of the grains. So we're able to track all three of those things, all of which are very important for us. When we deliver it off of moisture, and then they'll tell us, and we get paid based on the test weight of the grain. So all are very important to us. This corn here today that we are testing is 21.2 moisture. With this type of corn, what we'll do is we will send it through our dryer system, and that will dry it down 6.5 points, and we'll get that down to right at 15 moisture coming out of the dryer. We want to make sure that the moisture level is low enough that we don't have any grain go bad in the bin. If it's too hot or too wet, then we can have grain go rotten and spoil in the bin, and then when we deliver it, we will get docked at the elevator for having bad quality of grain. So it's very important that we track in the moistures before it goes into the bin so that we don't have any problems later on down the road. So when we deliver our corn to our grain facility here at our farm, all of our corn will come into here and it will go down into what we call the pit. It's about a 20-foot hole in the ground. And at the bottom of the pit, there's a gate. And what the gate is, it's a hole to get into one of these two elevator legs. And what these do is inside, there's a really long belt with little buckets. As it goes around and around the elevator leg, those buckets grab corn out of the bottom of the pit and take it all the way up 125 feet in the air. And then it will dump it, and that's where we can select what bin that we want it to go to. After it goes up in the air, we send it down the tubes that go to the grain bin, and that's what fills our grain bins here at our farm. So it's very important that this is working correctly, and this is one of the most important places on our farm to get our grain from our field to our farm and into the grain bin. Here we're standing next to one of our grain bins that we'll put corn into. As you can tell, it's pretty big. So this bin here holds right at about 40,000 bushels of corn, with 1 bushel of corn weighing 56 pounds, so it holds a lot of grain for us here. Grain bin safety is one thing that we do not take very lightly here, so we have to be very cautious. But in the bin here, when the grain goes in, it'll fill up the bin, and after it fills up, we're able to run. We have fans that will blow air through the bottom, and it'll come up through the floor, and it will help dry our corn, keep our corn at the right moisture, as well as make sure that we're not having any hot spots or other moisture in it that will cause it to go bad. So if you want to take a look inside, we have the floor that has a bunch of little holes in it that for all the air to get through. And then we have the center auger piece here that helps us clean out the bin. We'll have grain in this bin until probably March or April of next year. So very important for us to have grain bin storage here on our farm. So this is our grain dryer. When we bring corn in to our grain facility, we'll send it through our grain dryer if it's too wet. And what this does is it's just like a clothes dryer at home, basically. There is fans and there's a flame inside that blows hot air against the grain that's falling down on the outside of the dryer. And what it does is it will get us from, say, 17 or 18 moisture corn. It'll get it warm and it'll dry it down to that 15 to 14 and a half moisture. And once it leaves the grain dryer, it will go back into a grain bin where it is stored until we take it to our local elevator. So it's very important that we don't overcook it with the dryer, because if we do that, then we can cause problems when we deliver it. And we also want to make sure that we don't under dry it, because then we run into some other problems that will be inside the grain bin as well.
Many farmers will choose the option to deliver corn on semi-loads to local grain elevators across the state. Supply and demand, geopolitical events, natural disasters, speculative trading, and government policies influence the commodity market price. Farmers watch commodity market reports and decide when to sell their grain. This is when the farm will be paid for that corn that they grew. Grain merchandisers who work with grain elevators purchase the farmer's corn for the market price of the grain, also called a commodity price. A grain merchandiser's job is to source the corn, trade the corn, and manage the movement of corn within the agricultural commodity market. Nebraska's corn is in high demand at beef and dairy operations in California, Colorado, and the Pacific Northwest and Texas. Nebraska ethanol is also exported to California and other domestic markets. Nebraska is the largest corn and ethanol producer west of the Missouri River. This is also a perfect position to serve these markets thanks to our abundant production and competitive transportation costs. Trains are primarily used to transport corn to places across the U.S. Much of the corn, distillers' grains, and ethanol we produce in Nebraska is used right here in the United States. But international exports of these products also help increase demand and drive prices both domestically and worldwide. And that improves profitability for farmers and ethanol producers in Nebraska. More than 95% of the world's population lives outside of the United States. The greatest potential for growth and profitability for Nebraska's farmers and ranchers lies in global markets, and that means international agricultural trade is critically important. The United States is the world's largest supplier of corn, commanding some 30% of the global market. The U.S. also exports corn co-products such as distillers' grains and corn gluten feed to supply a feed source for cattle and pigs. International trade drives demand, and demand drives prices. That's why trade is important to the bottom line for Nebraska corn producers.
Growing grains like corn on our farm is a way of life for us. We care for the land and strive to raise quality crops for our family and for future generations. Global trade allows us to share the fruits of our labor with people all over the world.